In tribute to his late father, actor Jim Parsons is investigating his paternal ancestry.
I think I've got some sort of French connection.
He explores the lives of two ancestors and uncovers remarkable triumphs.
Oh, I love this.
A great tragedy.
He was literally walking through versions of hell.
In the lives of men who left indelible marks on history.
This is really beyond anything I would have ever expected.
Classically trained actor Jim Parsons has found success in roles on both Broadway and the big screen. But it was his breakout role on the mega-hit sitcom The Big Bang Theory that catapulted him to stardom, earning him 2 Emmys and a Golden Globe. Jim divides his time between Los Angeles and New York, where he recently filmed an adaptation of the play The Normal Heart.
I grew up in Spring, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston, Texas. And looking back, I had a really great childhood. My parents, Judy and Milton, really put me in a good starting place to come from as an adult. I first started acting in first grade, then from elementary into junior high, into high school. Then I ended up going to grad school and continuing studying theater. I think my dad's response to me wanting to get into theater, join the circus as it were, his positive response to it was, what have I put in this work to provide for my son for if the thing he wants to try doing, we squash? My father was extremely loyal, very hardworking. His family and his friends were extremely important to him. He would literally do anything for us. He passed away in 2001. It was from a car accident. He was 52, and I was 28. With him being gone, it's been quite a comfort to think and feel that he's sort of still along for the journey. I think my father would be intensely interested in this. You know, finding out what it is you come from is fascinating. And that's important, you know, you are the sum of your parts. Because family was so important to my father, I'd really like to do this for him in honor of his memory. I know so little about my family in general, as far as history goes. The only thing that I've ever been curious about is I know of no other artists in the family. That would be interesting to me. Somebody did tell me something about my family being French, and I don't know who, but the only reason I believe it is because I know that there's some connection through Louisiana, but I don't know who. I think it's time to start collecting the stories.
Jim has invited his mother, Judy, to meet him in New York to review his father's family history. Judy has brought some photos and documents to look at.
So
well,
what have you
I
brought?
did bring some things that
Yes.
I thought might help on your dad's side of the family.
Yes.
Do you know who this is?
Okay, I've seen this
And-
picture. Daddy's grandma.
Yes.
My great-grandmother.
And her name was Jean Hacker. Mm-hmm. I have something else that I'm not sure that you've seen before because I didn't until I really started trying to bring some things for you. And this is Jean Hacker's death certificate.
Oh, wow.
See her birth date.
Oh, yeah. January 24th, 1882. Born in New Orleans. Mother. Adele Druitt. Is that French? Druitt?
I think so.
Right,
I
it
think
must
so.
be. Well, what did I tell you?
I know.
Wow. Father's name, Charles Hacker. Charles and Adele.
Jim has just confirmed a connection to Louisiana, which is where his paternal great-grandmother, Jean Hacker, was born. Her parents were Charles Hacker and Adele Drouet, Jim's great-great-grandparents.
Look at this.
That's Adele.
This is Adele. This is a picture of her when she was older.
Wow.
And look how old she lived to be.
Oh, 90.
Yeah.
We got good blood.
Yeah.
Well, I do. This wasn't your side, was it?
Isn't
Good
that
luck to yourself. Yeah.
remarkable?
That's incredible.
Right.
Is that in Louisiana?
Oh, I think so.
So I think we have to go to New Orleans.
I hope you have a wonderful journey.
Thank you very much. I love you.
Now that Jim has proof of his Louisiana roots, he's heading to New Orleans.
I am thrilled to be here. It's really nice to have that confirmed. I came through Texas by way of the beautiful city of New Orleans. So whether this leads to France, I'm pretty happy already.
To help him investigate his great-great-grandparents, Charles Hacker and Adele Drouet, Jim has contacted genealogist Judy Riffle at the Louisiana Historical Center.
It's very good to meet you, too. Thank you so much for meeting me.
My pleasure.
I'm following through my father's side.
Okay.
I think I've got some sort of French connection.
I recognize the name Hacker as being a French name, even though it doesn't sound like a
Hacker
French name.
is French, too.
Hacker is a French name.
Uh-huh.
And, of course, Drouet or Drouet sounds like a French name as
Right,
well. So
right.
you may have two French lines to research.
Unbelievable. Where do I go from here?
Let's do a little digging and see what we
Okay.
can find out. Sometimes it's easier to go through the mail line. So let's start by looking at the census records for Charles Hacker.
All right, so we put in lived in Louisiana.
And then we search the bottom.
All right. Okay, Charles P. Hacker, residence Iberville, Louisiana. Birth date, 1850. 1850. There it is. There's Hacker.
Okay.
Hacker. Okay. Oh, I love this. There's Charles, who is my great-great-grandfather. He's 5 months old when this is taken. And up at the top, it says J.B. Hacker, who is 40.
Correct?
So that would be Charles's father. So this is, oh, wow. So he's a doctor. That's fascinating.
It's rare to have a physician, a white-collar person in that area at that time period. It's Iberville Parish.
Iberville.
Was a very rural area, and he was probably the only local doctor
Wow.
that they had.
I come from helpful people. Good. Okay. And then the Louisiana next to that signifies
Where he's born.
where he's born.
Correct.
So even JB was born in, we've gone back another generation, and he was born in Louisiana.
Yes.
Okay, so where do I go from here?
You could look into Dr. J.B. Hacker and speak
Okay.
to someone who's familiar with 19th century Louisiana history. And I can do a little more digging and see if I can find some more information on
Oh,
Adele
thank you.
Drouet.
Thank you so much.
My
This is
pleasure.
very, very exciting. I'm nowhere near a doctor, but it's nice to know that I'm related to one. That really surprises me that we run at least 3 generations deep in Louisiana. You know, I grew up in Texas. All of our family that I know of grew up in Texas. I had no idea there was a part of the family that was really entrenched here. So I'm going to continue tracing things through my 3 times great-grandfather, J.B. Hacker. I think it's very interesting, this idea of being a physician in this rural area. How all-encompassing is that? What level of surgery did he do or not do? I have no concept of that.
Jim is heading to Tulane University in New Orleans to meet Jeanette Keith, a specialist in 19th century Louisiana history. Jeanette has been looking into Jim's 3 times great-grandfather, J.B. Hacker's medical practice.
I've got some documents here that I think maybe will take your search a little bit further.
Okay.
Okay? We will get this big book out, and we're going to look at page 46.
Aren't you scared to touch this?
Yes. Okay.
The smell. It smells like my grandma's house.
This is a list of graduates from the Medical College of Louisiana.
Okay. Here we are in the H's. Hall, Hale. I see Acker without an H, so I'm assuming that's where we want to be. JNO.B. So, okay, so that's JB.
That is an abbreviation for John or Jonathan.
Oh.
Okay.
In the state of Louisiana, year graduated, 1842. So that makes him 32. Number of graduate, 55.
He was the 55th graduate in the history of the school.
Of the school?
Yeah, yeah. Now, this is the best, one of the best medical schools, if not the best medical school in the South. So it's a new thing, okay?
Wow.
And I do want to kind of emphasize this. Your ancestor did not have to do this to make a living. There were people that just hung out a shingle and said, I'm the doctor. It was
Some
fairly
still do, I
common.
feel certain about this.
Yeah, probably. This school was opened by a group of young doctors who wanted to change that.
Because American medical practice in the 19th century did not have an established qualification process, many pharmacists and drug peddlers called themselves doctors but became known as quacks. They commonly gave useless medical advice and hawked sometimes dangerous products made from ingredients such as opium, sulfuric acid, or just colored water, and touted them as cure-alls. In an effort to legitimize and professionalize medicine, the Medical College of Louisiana, just the second of its kind in the Deep South, was established in 1834, 8 years prior to J.B. Hacker's graduation.
These are the people who are going to be founders of the medical profession as we have it today.
Okay.
And we have turned over to this other page.
Yes. Hacker, JB, other degrees, public offices, honors, etc. VXUO, middle, I'm assuming, MDL? No, not at all. What is it?
This is actually the New Orleans Medical and Surgical Journal. He wrote an article.
Oh.
Okay, so he was
published.
He was published.
Wow.
Okay. So the New Orleans,
Medical Journal.
And we will open this up to page 868 and 869.
And what year is this?
1854.
Okay, so 1854, so that from the census is 40 at 50, so he's 44 when he's written this. Yellow Fever in Plaquemine, Parish of Iberville by J.B. Hacker, M.D. An epidemic yellow fever prevailed in this town.
Your ancestor here was in the middle of the yellow fever epidemic of 1853, and it killed about 8,000 people in New Orleans alone.
Oh. In the majority of cases that came under my observation, the fever began with a chill of greater or less severity, followed by violent headache, pain in the back, and abdominal extremities. So he's going to tell exactly what happened through the epidemic?
He's going to describe it. He's providing information for the medical profession.
When black vomit supervened, it was generally on the 4th day. Wow. Hemorrhage from the gums, bowels, nose, etc. were frequent accompaniments and generally happened on the 3rd or 4th day. Good grief. He was literally walking through versions of hell where he was going.
Yeah.
It's horrifying.
It is horrifying.
Absolutely horrifying. They were still trying to figure out how it's contracted exactly.
Yeah. We know that yellow fever is spread by mosquitoes.
Right.
But they do not know that, and no one knows that until the early 20th century.
Wow. This is very reminiscent of like the things you read about in the 1980s with HIV and everything. The courage of a doctor to deal with anything when you don't know how it's traveling. And you put yourself in the room with patients, you know, that's a real commitment, certainly to your chosen work, but it's also, I think, a real commitment to your humanity in general. And maybe that's the best of science always does that, actually.
We can hope.
You would hope. You would hope. Now, do you have more that takes us even further with him?
Yeah, yes, we do.
Of course you do.
We're going to use a database that shows us newspapers.
Oh, okay. I love this.
And the date range, he was born in 1810.
That's right.
Okay, and then let's just make it 1900.
Louisiana?
Louisiana, yeah.
The loss of the steamer Gypsy. 8 or 10 lives lost. At 3:30 o'clock yesterday morning, the fire broke out. It originated in the wood on the boiler deck between the chimneys and immediately spread with fearful rapidity.
Yeah.
I'll be damned. A telegraphic dispatch which we have received confirms the report of the sacrifice of Dr. Hacker of Plaquemines with his nephew, a lad of some 13 years of age, and his daughter. Oh, so he died in this.
Yeah.
We just figured out who he was, and now he's gone. 1854. So this is the same year as
Yeah.
the journal,
Yeah.
when he's 44.
Yeah.
That's only 4 years older than I am right now. It's hard to hear of putting so much work and all these things and all this advancement made, and to have it end, you know, both suddenly but so soon, you know. He couldn't have been more in the prime of his working. And that happens, you know. I am curious, how did this happen? How did this specific steamer? They really don't go into that. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to find out how this fire started and find out what killed him. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
J.B. Hacker was very impressive to me. The efforts he was making, the progress he was making, the good he was doing, and bam, it's finished. And he's one of those people that when they're gone, you have to sit back and wonder, what else would you have done? Even though I'm tracing my specific family, it's connecting me to people and places that reach beyond that.
Jim has arranged to meet Robert Goodmastad, an expert on 19th century Mississippi steamboats, on board the Natchez. Robert has been looking into the fire aboard the Gypsy that claimed the life of Jim's ancestor.
Well, we are on the Natchez, and the Natchez is a rough approximation of what a steamboat would have looked like in the 1850s. The difference with this steamboat to one that your great-great-great-grandfather would have traveled on is that those steamboats were made almost completely out of wood.
Oh.
And would have been fueled by fire.
But so come on, it's amazing that they all didn't burn up if they're made of wood.
Well, there's something I'd like to show you.
Okay. Well, this is a steamboat. It's the Gypsy. Was this done before the accident?
This was painted in 1853.
So the year before the accident?
The year before the accident.
That's amazing. Okay, this is what I find so curious about the fact that he was on it, and he was on it with his nephew and his daughter.
Sure.
Were they there for pleasure?
This would have been the normal way to travel. And they were probably, in Louisiana in the 1850s, the fastest way to travel.
So what do we know about the very specifics of the Gypsy's parish, if you will?
On a steamboat like the Gypsy, you have the boiler room and the furnaces in the middle of the boat. And so you can actually see...
The burning.
Yeah. Someone opened the door to the boiler room. Apparently, though, it was a very, very windy evening. And there was a gust of wind that came through the boiler room. And it carried some of the flame out of the boiler room onto the deck. So the boat catches on fire. Your great-great-great-grandfather would have been very close above the boilers, because that's where the men's cabin was. And so he was in his cabin, perhaps did not hear the commotion. The fire apparently was a huge fire, spread to the bank.
Unbelievable.
To the landing, yeah. It's tragic all the way around.
Yeah.
Let me show you one more thing.
All right, so this is the Southern Sentinel, Plaquemine.
This would have been your great-great-great-grandfather's
local paper?
His hometown newspaper.
And this is almost 2 weeks after the accident. The late Dr. Hacker. At a meeting of the Cannoneers. What are the Cannoneers?
It was a civic organization. It was like the Kiwanis or the Elks.
Thank you, that's helpful. In the death of the late Dr. J.B. Hacker, the community lost a kind, dutiful, and exemplary citizen devoted to its interests, a skillful and well-beloved physician, highly benevolent and industrious in the discharge of his duties. The members of said cannoneers, as a mark of respect for our late commanding officer and regret for his unfortunate death, wear black crape in the usual form on our left arms for 30 days. Wow. I mean, that's like when you see people on the sport fields or whatever these days.
Right.
But this is amazing, this outpouring for his death. It's really touching to see the reach that J.B. Hacker had. This is sad, I know, but it really reminded me of going to my father's funeral. The amount of people that showed up that I had never heard of or seen before was sort of jaw-dropping to me. And the reach that he had with his life to affect other lives was really touching, and it was really surprising. And I had the exact same feeling today. And I think, too, you feel a real sense of pride, and to have that feeling again from so long ago. And this is on my father's side of the family. And are these the kind of qualities that are passed down through a family? I don't know the answer to that, but it's not a far reach to say that they are.
J.B. Hacker's life ended unexpectedly, but Jim is still determined to explore the French roots in his family. He is meeting genealogist Judy Riffle at the Louisiana Historical Center for a second time. He wants to see if she's uncovered evidence of French ancestry on either the Hacker or the Drouet lines.
Well, I did try to trace Dr. Hacker's line back to France, but unfortunately he got lost in the document trail.
He did.
But I did have more luck with Adele Drouet.
You're kidding.
And I did prepare a pedigree chart for you.
Oh, there's Adele. Okay, and so Adele's mother was Anaïs?
Right, and Anaïs Trouard.
Trouard. Okay, and now we're going through Anaïs's side to her parents. So these are my four-time great-grandparents.
Yes.
Prosper.
Prosper.
Prosper Trouard and Eliza Delarie. And he was born in La Rochelle, France. So there you go.
There you go.
There's a relative born in France. Okay, and then we go through my four-times great-grandfather's side up to his parents, Alexandre, I'm gonna sound like a fool, Alexandre Louis Trouard, and he was born in March of 1761 in Paris, France.
Yes.
The heart of it all, I would say. Wow. Okay, so if I want to extend this journey, I need to get to France, don't I?
Yes, I would suggest you go to the French National Archives in Paris.
Well, Judy, I really can't thank you enough. This has been so exciting.
Bon voyage.
Bon voyage to you. Thank you so much. For years, I had heard that we were French, and I didn't know what that meant. To see definitive proof that we're actually going to go trace now, it's fascinating, and it puts it into a whole other context. I've got these two new people now, Alexandra and Prosper Trouard. I love the idea of getting to travel to France now with these ancestors and get, hopefully, some sort of full book on what they were doing, what they were like. I'm very excited.
Jim has come to Paris to visit the French National Archives. He's meeting Professor Drew Armstrong, a specialist in 18th century French history. Drew has been searching through the archives for any information about Jim's French ancestors, Prosper and Alexandre Louis Trouard.
I haven't been able to find anything substantial on Prosper Trouard.
Okay.
However, for Alexandre Louis Trouard, I have found some documentation that starts to open up vision into his life.
Okay, beautiful.
The first piece is the baptismal record of Alexandre Louis Trouard.
Okay.
So we have a translation.
You have a translation.
We have a translation.
Beautiful. Okay. So, baptism on Monday, the 16th of March, 1761, of Alexandre Louis, okay, my 5-times great-grandfather, son of Louis Francois Trouard. Okay, there's a new name. So, Louis Francois Trouard, he's my 6-time great-grandfather.
That's correct, yes.
architect to the king. So Louis Francois Trouard is an architect to the king, the literal king?
That is correct, yes.
Really?
Yes. He is the architect to Louis XV.
To Louis XV?
Louis XV, precisely.
Wow. Okay. Godfather, Louis Trouard, marble supplier to the king. So Louis Trouard, who is that?
Louis Trouard is your 7 times great-grandfather.
great-grandfather.
He's the father of Louis Francois Trouard, architect of the king.
Jim has discovered that not only was his 6 times great-grandfather, Louis Francois Trouard, architect to King Louis XV, but his father, Louis Trouard, was marble supplier to the king.
So all of Alexandra's family basically worked for the king?
It looks like that, doesn't it? Absolutely.
It does look
absolutely.
like that. Yeah.
But Louis Trouard is a middle-class person, not an aristocrat.
Oh, he's not. Not as noble a job as what his son ended up in, but it was a very good job.
It was a very, very good position, as opposed to his son, Louis Francois, who is being groomed as a professional.
Huh.
So a complete transition from one generation to the next generation. Louis Trouard essentially positioned his son, Louis Francois, in the most elite artistic circles in France.
Wow. Well, how does one ever become an architect to the king? I mean, I can't imagine that's easy or a common thing to do.
It was neither easy nor common, and that's the whole point. So this is an 18th century register, and what this is here is a transcription of an official document concerning Louis Francois Trouard. This is your 6 times great-grandfather.
September 1754. And this is the translation of that?
This is the translation.
Acting on the report submitted to us of the great aptitude of Mr. Louis Francois Trouard of Paris, about 25 years of age, in the art of architecture he has practiced through study under Mr. Loriot, professor of the Royal Academy of Architecture, in which he won the first prize last year, 1753. We have chosen and named him to be one of the boarding students sponsored by the Academy of Painting, Sculpture, and Architecture, established for service to His Majesty in Rome. So he was scholarshiped to go to Rome.
He was scholarshiped, absolutely.
In the hope, although not necessarily for sure, that he would one day work for the king.
Indeed, that is a strong implication. Winning that prize, the Grand Prix de Rome, this is when his career is absolutely made.
Yeah.
It's extremely uncommon to have this opportunity.
Wow. So what does he do after Rome? How does he continue this trajectory?
So he's in Rome from 1754 to 1757, and then he travels back. One document that I found that helps to give a sense of how he's cultivating his supporters is this letter.
This is 1769, so wait, let me see something real quick. He was 25 in 1754, so this is 1769, so he's 40. So am I. It is with pleasure, sir, that I announce that the king has elected you to fulfill in the 2nd class of his Academy of Architecture the place made vacant by the death of Mr. Pluyet.
Yes.
Wow.
He becomes a member of an organization called the Royal Academy of Architecture, an elite, learned, scholarly body. There were 32 seats, divided into 2 classes, 16 seats per class. And you had to wait for someone to die in order for a vacancy to open up. And then...
It's like looking for real estate in New York. I do not doubt that this new favor by His Majesty shall prove for you further reason for zeal in his service. Oh, I mean, really, it's his acceptance letter.
In 1769, he is catapulted into the Academy. It's the greatest honor you could achieve. That's the most significant function of the Academy. You are honored by the king.
Unbelievable. It's the Supreme Court of Architects.
It might as well be the Supreme Court of Architects, yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
This is a distinct and forever thing, exactly.
And he was obviously extremely good at his job and devoted to it and talented at it. Would he live in the palace?
In fact, Trouard has an apartment not in the chateau at Versailles, not in the residence proper, but in a building adjacent to it.
Really?
So if you're interested in continuing to expand your understanding of Louis-François Trouard's work and career and get a feel for the period that he lived at Versailles, I think the best thing would be to actually travel there.
So I'm going to Versailles?
Indeed.
I've said wow a lot, but I mean it. It's a sincere wow.
Excellent.
Thank you very, very much for this. I appreciate it. You know, it's funny, you know, we had to go back to the 1700s, but damn it, we found somebody in the arts, really, which is very exciting. But, you know, it's just very appropriate that we've been going through my father's side of the story. Clearly, my father was a man much like Louis-François' father was. I'm on no academy to the king, but my father did find a way to allow me to do exactly what I wanted to do. I've always said without that, I wouldn't be doing this right now. I loved school. I loved being in the educational environment. And to find Louis-François, who went through essentially grad school in Rome, and we had, before him, we found JB, who went to school when he need not have gone to school to further his career at that point. I think it gets to a point where it's more than a coincidence that this is my blood relation.
Jim has come to Versailles to visit the Chapelle de la Providence. He's meeting Ambrogio Caiani, a specialist in 18th century French architecture and history.
Ambrogio?
Yes, indeed.
Hi. Hey,
Hello,
I'm Jim.
Jim. How are you?
Very good to meet you, and thank you so much for meeting me here in Versailles. I was just dying to know if I could learn any more about my six-time great-grandfather, Louis-François Trouard, the projects he had worked on, and how his career went.
Well, I certainly think we can help you with that. This church is one of his masterpieces.
This is?
Yes.
Wow. This is quite beautiful. It's very elegant and it's very classy looking, but at the same time, it seems very inviting. So he's doing this, Trouard is doing this while working still within the monarch.
Yes, indeed. Trouard reaches the highest point in his career in 1787 when he is made a premier, an architect of the king first class. Because by now, Trouard is 60. It's quite an achievement because, as I think we all know, France is heading towards rather choppy or stormy seas at this time. And Trouard's nomination as architect first class of the king is only 2 years before the beginning of the French Revolution.
Right.
The French Revolution erupted in response to the lower and middle classes' demands for social and economic equality. But the seeds of rebellion were sown decades earlier, during the so-called Age of Enlightenment. A new intellectual movement promoted reason over tradition and superstition, inspiring French citizens to fight for their rights in the 1789 revolution. After several years of violent upheaval, the monarchy was abolished, Louis XVI was beheaded, and some 40,000 people were executed, striking fear into the hearts of royal architects like Louis-François Trouard.
Now, architects have a pretty difficult time. 4 are executed, 25 are put in prison.
Why were they executing architects?
It was for the old-fashioned reason of corruption, and they were too perhaps compromised with the old regime.
Sure.
Architects who worked more in the tradition of the French court created spaces which were much more ornate, much more decorated, very much for the private pleasure of the aristocracy. And they had ended up under the hot blade as the euphemism for the guillotine.
So there is the possibility, at least, that my ancestor could have been executed.
Indeed. but Truard doesn't have the track record of the other architects who were executed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he really was one of the key figures in the redesign of churches in the Age of Enlightenment.
How fascinating. So what happens to Truard as an architect of the king once the revolution starts?
The key question is, what was your past like? What did you do before the revolution?
Right.
And what did you do to support it? Truard seems to have been quite friendly with some pretty liberal and radical thinkers of his age.
Really?
But one of the more interesting figures that he definitely knows was somebody called Father or the Abbé Raynal, who was a member of the Enlightenment. Raynal was so radical in the 18th century that he actually said that slavery was an awful thing.
Wow.
And your grandfather was a deeply intimate friend with him, because we know that Raynal, from the late 70s until the early 80s, lived in Truard's house in Paris.
You're kidding.
I found a document which is rather interesting on all of this. I'm just going to go and grab this book. We have some of his correspondence. So have a look here, Jim, at page 221.
221. Okay. I see Raynal's name, and I see it again. Bunch of French I can't read. Monsieur Truard. John Adams. What's going on here?
This needs interpretation, and perhaps
Indeed,
the
yes.
translation might
Thank you.
help you a bit.
Letter from Raynal to Franklin, 2nd of February, 1779.
It's just 10 years before the French Revolution.
On Thursday, the 4th of this month, around 11 in the morning, a very pleasant gathering of friends are to have Russian tea at Father Raynal's home. Mr. Franklin is beseeched by all of the party to honor this breakfast with his presence. Is that like Benjamin Franklin?
Yes, quite.
No,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
That is unbelievable. I ask the same favor of Mr. Adams in Paris, February 2nd, house of Mr. Truard. Is that saying that they all stayed there?
Yes, indeed.
So wait a minute. So Benjamin Franklin, Raynal, and John Adams were in the house of Mr. Truard. Wow. Is this just a nice little brunch to have, or would there be some sort of reason for them to gather?
Well, I suspect that Franklin and Adams would have been in particular interested in Raynal's ideas about slavery and the colonies.
Really?
Franklin being a man of the Enlightenment. These people were eating and drinking buddies. One of the few ways in which we can tell who was a member of the Enlightenment or not is where they went and ate and with, in whose house they frequented.
Wow.
And your ancestor knew some of the greatest thinkers of the day.
Wow. Until I've talked to you, all I found out about him was the way his career went, which was mostly shown to me through that he was associated with the king. And now to hear that obviously there's some sort of leaning or way of thinking on his part that obviously isn't in camp with this regime.
Yeah, indeed. So he seems to have survived the revolution pretty unscathed.
Oh, that's good.
And that he dies in 1804.
Oh, really? So his behavior and his actions and the way he worked and led his life must have been in a way that didn't let people believe he had been corrupt or serving too fervently, at least, people or a regime that had been oppressive. They didn't feel he was part of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, do you suspect that Truard himself ever visited America?
I don't know is the honest answer, but his children certainly do.
Oh, is that true?
Alexandre Louis, his eldest son, was also a talented architect who'd also won the Prix de Rome.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We know that Alexandre Louis took a radical step of going to the French colonies and spent some time in Saint-Domingue, or as it is known now, Haiti.
Oh, his son did?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Alexandre Louis' younger brother transferred to Louisiana. And I think this brings us back to your American connection quite nicely, to the very
without
founding.
a doubt. It's kind of an unbelievable way to tie back into America. This is really beyond anything I would have ever expected.
An absolute pleasure, Jim.
Thank you very much. It was good to meet you.
Pleasure.
I think that in both the case of Hacker and Truard, it's really the hardworking aspect of them that my father would most identify with. It just was a constant devotion to getting the job done as best you could. And that's just something that my father passed down to me. You know, and then again, with Louis Francois, and how important, obviously, it was for his own father to help him realize this dream of being an architect, and helping him get that done, and not just get that done, but finding a way to help him get that done at the highest level possible. That was just not surprising to hear that that was part of my father's side of the family. And when I was young and I knew no different, I didn't really take note of it. But it's been much later in life that you look back, not only with gratitude, but with a more almost, I don't know what I would have done. I really don't know what I would have become without my father. But I have this suspicion that without that kind of love, I feel like I would have been a much less happy individual. And that's what's behind me for generations.